Hello YouTube, and hello viewers, and welcome back to another episode of creating a 2D side-scroller in Unreal Engine 4. It's been a very long journey now. I want to thank all of you for joining me on this journey. Today is another lesson in working with our bad guy. What we're going to look at today is we're going to start adding some movement into the bad guy. So we're going to get him to rotate around, because remember when we jump behind him, he didn't really turn. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're also going to give him some sort of, so we could say intelligence. So basically the character can move if we get into a certain range. He'll then come towards us, and vice versa. So if we jump over him, for example, he'll then go in the other direction. This might be a very long session, so please bear with it. I'm going to try to keep it to my 20-minute mark, but if it does go over, I do apologize. So let's get straight into it. So where we left off last time is we got to the point where we shot the character, the bad guy. We kept on shooting at him. And basically what happened is once we killed him, he dropped an item in the game. So let's just check that out. So without me dying, hopefully. So let's shoot him. I should have really increased the bullet strength. And you can see he dropped some coins into the level. But what I want to show you is what happens if we jumped over him. So like so. Notice that he'll keep shooting because we are in that range area that we gave previously. But what we want him to do is actually turn around, so therefore he'll carry on shooting at us in the direction that we're standing. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. Secondly, what we're going to look at is giving him some intelligence that if we get into a certain range of him, he'll be able to start moving towards us and also back on himself. Now there's many ways you can do this. I've just found a very easy solution as a beginner tutorial. There are a lot more ways you can do this. And if you have got any questions, just throw a comment and I can explain it if you do go a little bit more advanced in the system I'm about to show you. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to jump into our Badman blueprint because that's where we're going to work with for the most of this session. Okay, and what we're going to look at is we created this section here. Okay, and remember this section at the bottom was sort of working out how far that character was. Okay, so how far that character was in regards to where he was standing and etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to just change the code a little bit because we're going to need some variables to work with our tutorial. We're still going to stick with the same idea, so it's not going to change much in regards to what we see here. But we do need to grab certain values and etc. in this one itself. Okay, so let's get started. So notice we've got this area that we were working out exactly where the location was of the character. And then if we were in so much of a range, it would then shoot at obviously us. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to still use this event tick. So what I need you guys to do in this episode is just move it out a bit because we need a bit of space for this one. Okay. And what I want you to put in, the very first thing we're going to put in is going to be a sequence. Okay. So to put in a sequence, you're going to hold down S and you're going to click. Okay, which is going to give us our sequence. And we're going to plug our event tick into the sequence. All right. Now there's going to be a lot of stuff coming off this sequence in today's session. So a very good idea is try and make sure you space it out as much as you can. Try and keep your area nice and clean. So move things around if needs be, which might help you. So we can just move it about and etc. Okay. So our very first thing we're going to do in regards to our sequence node, okay, is we're going to attach it to this section here that we have, okay? But we need to get some variable information instead of pulling off loads and loads and loads of nodes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called range or distance in this example, and that's going to hold this float information here. So this bit right in between this section, so where this node is, we want to set a value to find out how far they are apart from each other. Okay, so let's do that now. So we need to create ourselves a new variable and we're going to call this one distance. Okay, and we're going to change that to a float. Okay, because obviously these are floats, the green lines are floats. Okay, and we're going to go in and we're going to say set. All right, so we want to set our distance. Let's just move this pin string out the way. Okay, and we're going to drag off our sequence into the set node. Okay, so this is going to be our very first one that we're going to make. So remember, I said we're going to move things around a bit in this session, so we have to move things about. Okay, and what we're going to set is what this value is here. So we're going to drag this off, okay, and we can actually disconnect this node and plug this one straight in, and then plug our set into our branch. So basically all this is doing is it's saying, okay, on the first sequence, we're going to find out where he is in the world. So the distance between the character and the bad guy. It's going to turn it into a variable so we can store that information that we need. Okay. And then obviously it's going to do the rest of what we asked it to do. So if we go into range, then obviously the bad guy will start shooting. What we could do is we could actually see if this is working. So let's just grab this print string like I do every session. Okay. And if I just drag this into the sequence, for example, and get my distance, not saying you have to do this, but I'm just showing you an example, is that now it should print off the distance between myself and the character. So you can see in the top left corner, it's storing that distance information, and we're going to need that for the majority of this tutorial. Okay, so we can undo that because we don't need it now. Okay, so we just hold Alt and click. Let's just move this out the way because we might want to call it later, so we just move it slightly out the way. All right, now what we need to do is we need to work out how we're going to rotate that character about. Okay, so how we're going to rotate the bad guy to find out where the character is in regards to where the bad guy is, and how do we rotate him? Because don't forget, we've got all this stuff here, so we're going to rotate all this. Now, what some people do is they'll do every single one individually. That's way too much work. What we can do is actually just rotate the whole actor. Okay, so our next step is we're going to drag off this node, okay, off our sequence, and we're going to make a new one. Okay, and this one's going to be called set actor location, if I can spell correctly. So set actor location. So there's quite a few here. We want this one. We don't want to select location and rotation. We just want to set his actual location. Okay, now basically this is going to be in reference to the actor, i.e. the bad guy. So we're just going to use that as a reference. Okay, and what we're going to do is we need to find out some information pretty similar to what we had up here. So we're going to get actor location. So get actor location. Now that should be a function. Oh, wrong one. Oh, silly Wayne. Get actor location. Oh man, my spelling today is atrocious. Sorry, everyone. So get actor location. Okay, we're going to bring something off here in a minute. So let's just move it to the side for now. And our next bit is obviously we need to find out where the actual character location is. All right, so our player, so our guy. So we're going to say get player character. So we're going to get our character. Okay, we then are going to get his location. So we're going to drag off there and say get actor location. Okay, so we're going to get his location. And notice now we've got two of these vector nodes. All right, so we've got two vector nodes. And what we want to do is, there's a nice little function in Unreal, is that we can actually find and look at the rotation. So we can find out if there is any rotation that might happen. And we want to rotate, obviously, our actor, so our bad man, towards our character. Okay, so we want to just rotate him around. So what we have to do is drag off this node, and we're going to type in find look at rotation. Okay, so I find this the easier way. So find look at rotation, and we're going to plug that into the target. So basically saying wherever the bad man is facing, okay, we then want to face him towards our player character here. Okay, our return value, however, you'll notice is a rotator. Okay, now obviously we are going to rotate in a way, but remember we're only in 2-dimensional here. Okay, so we are in 2-dimensional view. So we're going to break this down. So we're going to split it up. Okay, so we're going to split that. And we're also going to split this here, so our location. So we're going to split that up. Just like that. Okay. And I've just realized this is the wrong one. This is not set actor location. It's actually set actor rotation. Sorry. Actor rotation. Sorry. Wrong one. Okay. So we're going to set his actor rotation. I'm going to right click, split it. Okay. And now when we rotate, remember we're going to rotate on the Z axis. So here. on our Z. So we're going to attach this Z to that Z. Now, with all being good, this should actually work. Okay, so let's test this. So let's compile them. Let's actually just go into our map and let's move all these bad things out the way because we don't want to end up dying for no reason. So we'll just move those out the way just so they don't cause us any problems. So we save and play. So hopefully now if I jump over the character, he should then rotate. So see the bad guy is now rotated to the angle that where my actor is. So if I jump over him, you can see he then rotates again in the other direction. So wherever I'm going to go, he's going to follow me in the direction that I'm going to jump or move away from him. Okay, so that's pretty much part one. That all we did is inside our blueprint, we made this sequence. We made this variable. Very important, ladies and gentlemen, that you need this for our next part of the tutorial. So make sure you put this distance variable in. Okay, and then with our sequence, our next one was just to do is rotation. Okay, so we're going to rotate our current actor, so the bad man, towards our actor. And all we did is we split the structs. We broke it down into X, Y, and Z. We then did the same on this one and broke it down X, Y, and Z. And therefore it gave us the values of these two. Okay, because we only rotate on the Z axis in a two-dimensional world. Okay. Now the next part gets a little bit more confusing. It gets a little bit more crazy, this next part. Okay. Now the next part, what we need to do is we're actually going to store some information. All right. Now, again, remember this is for beginners, so I'm trying to make it as simple so people can understand variables and how they work. Normally, if you're doing this, you wouldn't do it the long way like I am, but it's just there to make it easier for you guys so that way you can understand things a little bit more better. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to capture my current actor, so my bad man. I want to capture his X value, his Y value, and his Z value. Okay, that way I can call them whenever I need them. Now what I mean is, so basically I want to save where that bad guy is currently on the X axis, where he is on the Y axis, and where his current location is on the Z axis. Okay, and we're going to store these as float variables. Okay, so we're going to make it 3 variables, 1, 2, and 3. And our first one we're going to call this actor. So actor, and it's going to be actor X. All right, so we're going to find out where he is on the X axis. The next one's going to be actor Z. Okay, so actor Z. And the next one we're going to have is going to be actor Y. And you can do it anyway. It doesn't really matter which way you put it in this case, but as long as you've got the 3 axes that we work with, that's all we need. Okay. Now we need to store it. All right. So we're going to need 3 pins. 1, 2, 3. And I'll explain why we need those 3. Because what we need to do is we need to set we need to set the values inside these. Right. So inside each one of these float values. So we're going to drag each one out, set, drag out the Z, set, and drag out the Y, and set. So now we need to make a little bit of space here. Actually, let's just move this around again. The joys of moving things about. Didn't really plan out how messy this is going to be. Remember, I do everything on the fly, so yeah, it could get a little bit messy. Obviously, you can clean it up how you like, but we only need one section here. Now, how do we get these values? Well, we've done it so many times already. We're just going to say get actor location. Oops, location. All right, so we're just going to get his location. We're going to split this because we've got 3 values that we want to grab. So we're going to split that return. And we're just going to plug them in. So X, Y, and Z. So I need to actually move these ones around because that makes more sense. So move those around. And all I need to do now is just plug these in. So plug that one in, plug that one in, and plug that one in. So all that's doing is that the sequence, so every tick, so every time the game ticks, it's going to store the value of X, Y, and Z of our actor, so the bad guy. All right, so it's going to keep an update of exactly where he is currently on the map. Very important that we have this, okay, because we're going to be calling them very shortly. Okay, so we will be calling them well, pretty much now, really. Okay, so what we need to work out is we need to work out how do we move this character, so the bad guy, in a certain amount of range that we walk in. All right. Now to do this, all right, we need to sort of use our distance variable that we have. So we need to work out how far they are apart. We then need to do a bit of math to say, okay, well, if he's in so much of a range, so say, for example, between 0 and 100, then do something. Okay, so then do something after that. So you can already tell there's going to be a variable. We have to do something called a range, and we need to do a true and false statement. Okay, so let's do the first one. So once you do the first one, the next one's pretty easy because it's pretty much just a repeat. So let's move these over just so they're out the way. So let's just move that over. Let's make a new pin. Okay, so we're going to be using that in a second. We won't drag off it just yet, but we will be using it shortly. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to get the distance. So get. All right, so we want to get the distance that we have. Now remember, we printed that distance. It was always printing, and we could see the distance between us and the bad character. Okay, now we need to find out a range of information. So we need to work out, is he between 0 and 100, or is he between minus 100 and 0? I mean, we got to work out all that type of information. So what we can do is we can use something called in range as a function. So in range. All right, so it works with floats, which is quite nice. And all we have to do is put a range in. So in this case, let's just say 0 and 100. That'll do us for now. So if he's in a range between 0 and 100, we're going to have to do some type of statement here. Okay, so we're going to have to branch. So B and click will give us our branch. So obviously the return value is going to plug into there. And as you guessed, our next pins from our sequence is going to plug into our branch. Okay, so that plugs straight into there. Now we need to do a bit of math. So now we need to work out if it's true. Okay, so let's just test. So let's go print. Let's print a string. So let's print string. Right, so let's just print something. And let's just say in range. So that way we can work out, will he be in range if we're in between that value? So let's test and play that. So nothing's printing apart from alive. Let's see if I do get a print. There we go. So you can see that I now get this text field saying I'm now in range. Now that's a bit close because I'm going to keep getting killed. So maybe let's change that to 200 value just for safety. So let's play. There we go. So we can see now I'm in range. So once I walk into this area, I'm now in range of where the bad guy is. And it's just printing because now that's true. Okay, so that's saying that we are in this range. Now all we have to do is just say, all right, so now we know we're in range, and that's a true statement. Okay, we're going to say set actor, oops, my spelling today, location. Right, so we're going to set the actor's location. Pretty straightforward. Okay, now we need to set his location on the X, Y, and Z value. All right, now this is where these three guys come in handy, our X, Y, and Z. So let's split this. So let's split that structure. So we have X, Y, and Z value. All right. Now, straight away, you can tell that the character is not going to move on this axis. So he's not going to move on the Z, and he's most definitely not going to move on the Y, but he will be moving on the Z. All right. So we can automatically say that in this case, right? I never got that right. I think it's because I built backwards by the looks of it. Well, depending on what you have, by the way. So he is going to move on the X-axis. So he will move on the X. He won't move on the Z. And he won't move on the Y. So I was right. Okay, so he will be moving on the X. So this information will change. And I'll show you how to do that now. But first, we're just going to plug in the ones that stay the same. So Y is going to stay the same. So we're just going to plug that one in. Z is going to stay the same, so we're going to get that, and we're just going to plug that into there. Okay, so basically that's saying keep where he is on height and keep his depth of where he is inside the map. All right, but what we want to do is we want to update his location here. All right, now to do that, we're going to get our X, so we're going to get that, and we're going to do something very simple. We're going to drag off our float, and we're just going to say plus. So it's going to be a float plus float. And all we're going to plus is a value of, let's just say, let's try 2. So let's put 2 in there and plug that in to that location. So basically that's saying every tick that happens inside the game, we're going to plus 2 to the value of x, which might mean he'll run away from us. So we don't want to do that. We want to change it to -2. Okay, so whatever that value was, so whatever the x value is, which is pretty much the distance value, the value of where the bad guy is, where he's standing still, we're going to -2 from that, which is going to bring him towards our character. Sounds kind of strange, but we could have done minus here, so we could have dragged off there and said minus. So float minus float and subtract 2. That makes more sense, I suppose. I'm going to plug that into there, into our x value. Now let's see what happens. So we compile and play. And there we go. We can see, oh my goodness, calm down, dude. All right, so we can see that the character now, or the bad guy, just keeps flying at me. All right, which means we're not quite finished yet. We've got a bit of work to do still. We can see that he moves way too fast at us, just ridiculously fast. So what we could do is between our 2 sections here, so on our true and our set actor location, we could just throw a delay in. All right, so we could throw a delay of, 0.2 will do. So let's just test it out. So compile and play. So let's see if we get in range. There we go. So you can see the character now is moving a little bit slower, maybe a bit too slow, but we can see that it's not as fast. He doesn't like fly at you. He does come at it at a certain speed. And you can adjust that with your duration. So if we had to change that to 0.5, for example, he should come a little bit more quicker. So let's have a look. We should already stop his shooting like bow. So you can see that he is, oh wait, the delay, 0.5 is more. Sorry, it's a bit silly. So let's do 0.1. Simulate play. There you go. So you can see it's coming a little bit more quick at us. The lower we reduce the value, obviously the quicker he's going to come towards us. All right. But now what about going back? So what about him going back in the other direction? Well, what we can do is we can do exactly the same thing again. So we can pretty much copy this. So we're going to copy all of this, paste it underneath. Right, so we're going to copy all of that. We're going to make a new pin on our sequence, and we're going to plug that one into our branch. All right. But now we're just going to change the values here. So our minimum is going to be -200. Okay, so we're just doing the opposite, but the maximum value is going to be 0. All right, and if it's true, it's going to do all this, and we're going to -2 this time, which we don't want to do. We actually want to plus this time. So we're going to plus, so we're going to float plus float, and we're going to +2, and we're just going to plug that into our new X location there. So let's see if this works. So compile and play, so we can see the characters moving towards us. Okay, staying on that x-axis, and if we jump over him, he should start then turning around and then start coming at us in the other direction, and so forth and so forth. And that's pretty much how we can just build some basic information into our character to get him moving. You could go a little bit crazy. We could, for example, say, let's how much time we've got left in the video? Let's just check. A little bit over, but what you could do is you could make a sprite sheet or sprites, or whatever you like to do, like we did with the character. You could make some animation for him to walk. So you could set that flipbook to work here. So once he starts moving, set the flipbook. And then on our falses, obviously, so if he's not in any of these locations, you'll then reset that flipbook back to normal. I can show you that, or if you do get a little bit confused about that, I could always, if you throw a comment, I could probably make a video about it if you like. Okay, bit of a complex system today. I did go through it very quickly because I'm a bit conscious about time. But all we did is we made a new variable called distance, which was a float, right? And we needed that because we needed these two values here to do this in range. So we needed to work out if he was in a certain range of our character. We did this many, many lessons ago. Okay, so what we could do is I could comment it later. I mean, you could do it in your own work. Then this one was all about changing his rotation. So we got where the actor was, so the bad man, and we got where the character was. And all we did was say, look at our target, which is the actual actor. And then we just rotated him on the Z axis. Very simple. Okay. Don't forget about our sequence node. And then down below, this was all about the AI movement. So we found the distance, if it was between so many values. We then did a simple movement of moving him so long along the x-axis. A lot to take in, I know. It's quite a big session, this one. It does get a little bit complex. We're sort of moving out of that beginner stage and turning ourselves into intermediate builders. But that gives you a good idea of Spider Junction City, I'll call it, when it comes with these sequences, that it's just lines everywhere inside your blueprints. However, that's it. Thank you very much for joining me on this tutorial. I hope you found that very informative. As I say, this was a very basic way of getting him to move. There are other ways of doing it. But for beginners, just to get the good concept behind it and how to get it to work, I think this is probably the best solution I could find. Thank you very much for joining me on this session. I look forward to all of these sessions, and I hope to see you in the next one. Remember, like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Goodbye.